So I'm currently back in the round pen with my horse Shine, and I wanted to make a part 2 video that goes with the series, How to Help Your Horse Stand Better for the Farrier. And I had a lot of questions after the first one and a lot of positive feedback, and a bunch of people were like, okay, well, what's step 2? What do we need to do next? So I've been trying to make this video for a while, but have kind of been inhibited by weather, and my trimming schedule currently is about double what it normally is, just because it's summertime. So I'm doing a lot more shoeing with composites and stuff like that, a lot more laminated cases. So I really haven't had much time to do any training videos, let alone do any type of training with with my personal horses. So this is my first opportunity to make part 2, and part 2 is basically going to be about giving your horse time to process between repetitions of doing things, okay? It's like cognitive behavior therapy, but for horses. And with a lot of clients, I call it hurry up and wait. So that's a lot of words thrown in your direction that probably don't make much sense. The main thing we're going to focus on in this video is that every time I ask my horse to do something, I'm going to give the horse time to process and mentally and emotionally come down between repetitions. And this does a couple of different things, okay? It teaches the horse some coping skills, some mental and emotional control, okay? So that when scary things happen, they've already learned how to mentally and emotionally come down quickly in a controlled environment, okay? And the other thing that it does is that it inadvertently teaches your horse to ground tie, which is an important skill to have when you're standing for the farrier, right? Both of those skills are very important. So something concerns your horse while your farrier is working on them, or even just the process of having to hold their leg up and not being able to run away from any type of stimulus can be concerning enough. Teaching them these coping skills will help them tremendously stand well for your farrier, okay? And the same with ground tying. If a horse can stand calm and still in any location you put it in, that is also a skill needed to stand well for the farrier. So the way that I'm going to show you an example of this is I am going to do a sensitizing exercise. I'm going to send my horse on a line around me, okay? And I'm going to show you what I do in between repetitions to help teach this skill. I gotta get my phone out and turn it off. All right, we're gonna start over again because another one of my horses came over and he decided to knock my camera down. So I guess I'm gonna start completely from the beginning. I'm gonna do a sensitizing exercise with her. I'm gonna send her around me in a circle, okay? And once I've established good forward movement, I am going to draw her to a stop and wait for her to mentally and emotionally come down till she processes what we did and finds a state of relaxation before I ask her for another repetition of this exercise, all right? So I'm gonna send her counterclockwise first because that is her good direction. I always like to start with the direction the horse has an easier time with, okay? So I'm gonna send her. And like she might be kind of rusty with this exercise because I haven't really worked with her much for the last 2.5 months. And we'll see how she does. But I'm not looking for perfection. I actually was hoping she'd do things a little bit wrong so I could give an example of how to work with that when certain things come up that were not behaviors you were initially looking for. Okay, so once she goes around past the camera again, I'm going to draw her to a stop, okay? And I'm going to stand here and I'm going to wait for her to give me a sign of relaxation, okay? That can be a lowering of the head, licking and chewing, a soft eye, cocking a hind leg, yawning. Any of those things could be a sign of relaxation. So she's licking and chewing now. Yay. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So in the beginning, when you start doing this exercise and waiting for your horse to come down, one of two things will, well, maybe three things. Either your horse might stand there and do nothing, okay? And if that's the case, just stand there and wait. That's why I call this exercise sometimes hurry up and wait. And in the beginning, it might take 5 or 10 minutes. And in your whole, during the whole time you're training with your horse, you may only do like 3 repetitions of one exercise because the rest of the time you've spent waiting for them to come down and relax. And that's okay, right? Every horse has to start somewhere. And how fast your horse comes down can kind of give you an idea of how much tension they are holding. And what else? The other thing that might happen is, right, they might come down really quickly. In that case, yay, that's awesome. Then you can go on and ask for another repetition of what you were doing. And the third thing that might happen is that your horse does nothing, but it's not because they are stressed, okay? It might be because they're already relaxed and the thing that you asked them to do was not stressful at all for them. But I rarely find that to be the case. All right, so since she's had a lick and a chew, I'm gonna send her again. I'm gonna ask for a little more energy. I'm gonna ask for a little more energy because she's too close to me. And the holy grail of this would be that your horse actually starts licking and chewing and lowering their head before you even ask them to come to a stop, okay? That they can emotionally regulate while their feet are still moving. That would be the ultimate end goal. Okay, so once she gets past the camera again, I'm gonna ask her to draw to a stop. And well, no, you're right in front of the camera. Let's go a little faster because she's anticipating stopping too much. Mind the feed pans, Shine. And she is a gaited horse, but a lot of gaited horses will still trot like she does. Sometimes she gaits, sometimes she trots. Okay, so I'm gonna get her past the camera again. And then I'm gonna draw her to a stop. Good. So now you can see, because I asked for a bit more forward movement, that she's a bit more up. She's a bit more concerned. I call that speed-related worry. And it's quite common that the faster the horse goes, the more stress they get. But see how quickly she still came down? She had a bit of a snort, a blowing snort, and then immediately started licking and chewing. So even though she did get a little bit stressed by what I asked her to do, she still came down relatively quick. And when I'm trying to gauge how safe a horse is to be worked with, or how easily they'll be able to be trained, this is one of those skills that I look for. Like when I provide stimulus, how quickly can they come down and relax afterward? And so that's one of the things I really like about her, is that even though she gets stressed a little bit easily, she finds relaxation pretty quickly after she experiences that small amount of stress or large amount of stress. Okay, so she's cocking a hind foot. I would like to see her head lower a bit more, but she's kind of a high-headed horse, so that's kind of just how she stands out in the pasture even when she's relaxed. It's very important to know your horse's normal that you are working with, because if you don't really know what is normal for them, there's no way for you to know when they're deviating from that normal, right? So like with my quarter horse, the one that knocked down the camera, if he was standing with his head this high, I'd be like, ooh, he's pretty stressed, okay? Because the way he is built and the way his mental and emotional state usually is, he always carries his head low, all right? But for this horse, who is much more high-headed and built very differently, her holding her head that way is her normal. So she's not necessarily stressed because she's holding her head and her neck and stuff in that position. All right, now that she's come down, I'm gonna send her again, the same direction. I'm gonna establish good forward movement and then draw her to a stop and wait again. Okay. So once she goes around again, I'm going to ask her to go a little bit faster again. And I'm probably going to try to stop her somewhere different, okay? I don't necessarily want to keep stopping her in the same place. She's pinning her ears. There's over behind the camera, there's other horses that she's pinning her ears at. She doesn't want them there. But as long as she's still doing the thing that I'm asking her to do, which she is, she's still going forward, I don't care about that behavior, okay? So once she goes around again, she felt me anticipate that stop. So now I'm going to draw her to a stop again. I'm going to bring her in a little bit closer because we're kind of far away. And then I'm going to wait for a sign of relaxation. Okay. And when you're waiting, it's really important that you kind of focus on how you're feeling and what you're doing while you're waiting. Okay. You don't want to stare at your horse right in the eye all stiff like, are you going to relax? Are you going to come down? Because guaranteed if you do that, they are not going to do that. They're like, what is this person so focused on? Why are they so freaked out about what I'm doing? There's a funny little yawn and a lick and a chew. So that time it took a little bit longer for her to come down. But that's okay. It's still relatively quick. Anything under a minute I think is pretty fast. But ideally, like I said, they would be moving, find that relaxation, or come to a stop and find it immediately, okay? That's what we're looking for as the end result eventually. And like the other thing you want to do when you're waiting for relaxation is like make sure you kind of assume a relaxed posture. Like you cock one leg, you kind of maybe like turn to the side so all your energy isn't being pushed right at your horse, okay? Anything that you can do to relax, maybe you do some deep breathing, I don't know, whatever it is. But if you're standing here super tense and thinking, do it, relax, relax, do it, your horse is not going to do it, okay? So if you are having trouble with this exercise, really make sure you check in with yourself too, okay? I think I'm going to do one more repetition and then we're probably going to wrap this up because we've had some decent examples with this sensitizing exercise, okay? So once again, I'm going to send her the same direction. I'm going to point, she yields. So I'll leave her alone, but I'm probably going to ask her to go faster immediately. And like I said, this horse does funny things. Sometimes she gaits, sometimes she trots. I let her pick whatever speed, that medium sort of speed that would be related to a trot that she wants to do. You just keep finding that feed bowl. Probably should have moved them. So I want to establish decent forward movement before I ask her to stop. Like I said, she's trying to push the other horses away from the fence. And I don't care. As long as she's doing the thing that I asked her to do, she can make ugly faces at them all day long. That doesn't concern me. So I want her to keep going. I'm asking for a little bit more each time. We're almost there. She keeps slowing down next to the feed bowls, so I'm going to keep speeding her next to the feed bowls. I want to make sure her mind is really focused on going forward. Good. So now I'm going to ask her to stop. Very good. And I'm going to bring her back. Normally I just let her stand there, but I want to make sure she's a little bit closer to the camera so you can kind of see what her body's doing. There, she had a little sigh and she's licking and chewing pretty quickly. So that's pretty good. That's what I was hoping she would do. What a good girl. And I mean, for the sake of the video, I'm not standing around for long periods of time, but we're getting to the very beginning levels of relaxation. Like if I was doing this well, I am at home, but if I was doing this without filming it, I would wait for her to find full relaxation between repetitions. If she was struggling to come down, like I might wait here quite a bit longer and wait for her head to come down and wait for her to cock a hind leg and wait for her to get really soft. But in the interest of making this video, I'm waiting for that first sign of relaxation and I'm moving on. But I think that about wraps this up. So I hope that made sense to everybody. And if you do have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And we'll see you in the next video. Around me. Okay, once I've established decent forward in one direction, usually starting with the D, and we'll just see what happens. So, and I'm kind of hoping she does do it wrong because it'll be a good example of how to work your way through the situation. All right, so I'm going to send her counterclockwise, as we did when I was still working with her, were desensitizing exercises. Conway, you little